guys, this is Miles Tails Prower, but most people call me Tails. And today, I will be reading you all The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, Episode 66. The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog Lost Episode Creepypasta. It's been a while since we last read creepypastas. Now this creepypasta is from Some Ordinary Games wiki. Some Ordinary Gamers wiki. Yeah, that's it. If you guys want to read this for yourself, we'll make sure to have it down the link in the description below. Now this is apparently last episode creepypasta, which I already said before. I wonder what's it all about. That's what I'm about to find out. Now, without wasting any more time, let's get reading. Can anyone help me out here? I'm looking for a lost episode of The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm sure some of you remember. If you're from the northern part of Virginia and watched the show, you may have seen it. Some backstory first, however. I first recall seeing this episode when I was 8. It was episode 66 of season 1. There was only one season, and this was only aired in Northern Virginia. As a broadcasting station had ignored the notice not to play the final episode of the bundle due to its extreme adult content. This was the station's choice, as it had purchased syndication rights for the area. But concerned parents later sued them after several children came down with a light neural hemorrhaging that caused severe nightmares and vomiting. Viewing this episode killed no one, and older viewers seemed immune to the effects of whatever caused the bleeding. But needless to say, a freeze was put on the production and was hushed up on the news. The show was replaced by the series simply named Sonic the Hedgehog, also known as Sonic SatAM, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, I started my search for the episode after the nightmares from watching the episode returned after 16 years. The nightmares were vivid. They contained visions of people in the long line, all of them clutching their faces in despair. The people in this line spread the full length of the street, and all had seemingly abandoned their cars to join the others waiting. Everything had a dark red tone to it, like the sun was burning out the sunset, but never fully went down. Those that weren't in the line littered the street dead. I can't recall much of the dream beyond hints of looting. Things like a line of dead riot police, smashed windows, and collapsed skyscraper in the distance, and upturned cars. But no one in the line paid attention to this. They simply sobbed as the line shifted forward. The nightmare ended with one of the members of the line looking directly at me. He said nothing, but shifted to an unnatural pose, his arms bent at 45 degrees angles, and his legs spread into a box over the ground. His mouth agape. I think that's what it's pronounced. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. As he did this, the rest of the people in the line did the same, striking the slightly different twisted pose. All were looking at me. I awoke with tears in my eyes. My local step to finding this episode lies with the station that originally aired it. There's nothing odd about the station. Its old management has long since moved on, committed suicide, as the new manager pointed out to me. Over a cup of coffee, a new manager and I discussed the station's past. I intentionally eased into the subject of the last episode, and, as it turned out, I was right to do so. When I brought it up, John, as he will now be known, literally spilled his coffee on his lap. He told me the subject was a personal one to him. As it turns out, John was the original owner's son. He was kind enough to explain to me that the legal fees he was receiving in the conjunction with the mail he was receiving from children and parents alike had pushed him too far, and he hung himself in a family kitchen. I was a little taken back by the news, so I figured I was digging too deep and decided to drop this madness, maybe call it a day. Before I could exit John's office, he told me he would send me the mail. His reasoning? He wanted me to know what happened. His curiosity was almost as deep as mine, which wasn't surprising considering this episode killed his father. I told him I'd take a look deeper into the subject and get back to him on anything I dug up. The letters were as one would expect. Angry mothers asking what kind of station would air such filth. Legal fees ranging into hundreds and thousands of dollars, enough to send any station broke in the 90s. And of course, drawings from children depicting scenes from the episode. There were things like the blood and unusually dull colors that persisted throughout the horrible things, such as robotic vomiting blood and tails crying over the corpse of a feathered headless bird. One letter, however, caught my attention specifically. It was a letter from the studio that produced the series. Thank you for purchasing the rights to air The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, Sega 1993 to 1994. All rights reserved. Enclosed is the series list, episode descriptions, and episodes 1 through 66, the entirety of Season 1, and legal information regarding ratings and air times. In poor handwriting at the bottom of the page, a scrawled note was placed in the words, Episode 66 is not to be aired. This is a database error and contains corrupted material. The initials JS followed. I set out to find this episode, but to no avail. My second plan was to ask the people who sent the angry letters about the episode, about their take on it. Those who have not moved away since then gave me the canned, I don't know, or not this again responses. But I did get a chance upon one man around my age that remembers and taped the episode. He invited me in and showed me his VHS copy of the episode. It was badly decayed from the years of neglect in the garbage, though, and I could make out a few bits. Tails screaming at Sonic with tears in his eyes. How could you, Sonic? What have you done? The rest of the episode was static, with the occasional scream and twisted figures. Not animals or people, but figures staring at the viewer, with their circular mouths and open black eyes emanating a slight screech. The tape sent chills up my spine, and I asked if I could take the tape for research I was doing into some episode. He agreed quite readily, and I promised to keep him updated about it. I took the tape back to John, and we watched it for about 15 minutes until John jumped back in his seat. He told me he saw a figure with black eyes, but it spoke for a brief moment. He claimed he saw its lips move, mouthing a word he thought was eternity. We watched the same 1-second flash for what must have been 30 times, and each time we both attempted to freeze the frame on the figure. It disappeared when the video paused. I called it a day there. We needed a better copy of the episode if we were to find out why it ended the entire series and caused me nightmares for much of my childhood. And this is where I will stop for part 1. Stay tuned for part 2 of Tails Reads The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, episode 66.